Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So happy you're with us today to stay curious. May 14th, 2025. That's about 52 years ago. This beast of a rocket, Saturn 1B, with a third stage as the orbital workshop called Skylab, was launched on this date on a hot afternoon in May. And Tom Usiak, you were there to photograph this picture here. Yep, our friend Tom Usiak, uh, in college, a young man getting his chops as a photographer. And what an excellent photograph this was. Is Marty Winkle, my co-producer, is moving me around a little bit there to line up things. Thank you, Marty, for doing that. So, of course, we're going to talk about really a seminal day in history. We've got a Skylab display here in our museum, but one of my things I want to do is make sure we have a billboard type situation as for guests to come in and see what this date in history or this week in history produced. And this is one of the biggies here. A fabulous workshop that had a less than nominal launch, and that Tom witnessed there, but it had a good happy outcome with three-man crews spending a lot of time up there in a quick, short year and a half on the International Space Station. We'll talk about the whole drama of this and a little bit about some of the details of the numbering of the Skylab missions, which all of you that know about space know how this was technically Skylab 1 to the engineers, an engineer like Marty Winkle. Hey, Marty, how are you there?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm good. Always happy to be sitting here in our studio, just 9 miles away from where this rocket was launched 52 years ago. That's always interesting to think about. Hi to Steve Jokums and Carlton Bailey. RG Jubilee, thank you. Uh, and appreciate that you're here, RG. And Mitch Rothman says greetings from Central Florida there. And Dave Stange says hello to our whole Stay Curious family here. And Dave, you'll be happy to know that I've got 3 birthdays in front of me here. 3 astronauts before we kick off Skylab. 3 astronauts, all shuttle astronauts born on May 14th. And the first one is Don McMongle, Flint, Michigan astronaut there. Don McMongle was born May 14th, 1952 in Flint, Michigan. That makes him 73 years old. He was a mission specialist pilot and then commander on his 3 shuttle flights. Pilot of 39 in 1991 and STS, I think 54. I've got 534, Marty, on my printout here. STS 534 is either 53 or 54. And he was commander of STS 66 in 1994. So happy birthday to Don McMongle, one of the astronauts that drove the other astronauts up to space up there. Our second of 3 birthdays on May 14th is this gentleman, William Gregory, nicknamed Borneo. Okay, Gregory was born in Lockport, New York on May 14th, 1957. An Albanian American family was his heritage, and he spent 16 days in space on STS 67, the Astro 2 astronomy mission up there. And so a happy birthday to Gregory. And that'd make him 68 years old, born in 1957. And the youngest of our trio of astronauts born today is James Vegas Kelly. There's old style, like Marty and I used to do back in the day, 5 years ago when this Stay Curious was born. Kelly was born in Burlington, Iowa, May 14th, 1964. All right, that makes him 61 years old. And STS-102 in 2001 and 114, the return to flight of Discovery in 2005, accumulated his 26 days in space. He was the pilot of both those missions and sat beside Eileen Collins on STS-114. He was a Capcom and branch chief as a management astronaut. Vegas Kelly there. So catch up with our birthdays there. It's always important to the American Space Museum to acknowledge the astronauts who are out there in our communities doing great things. We appreciate everybody that goes out and sees them. Marty said he was out there. And who are you out seeing today, Marty, at the Space Center?
Oh, nobody today, but we saw Ken Cameron yesterday, and tomorrow we're going to go see Fred Gregory.
Ah, two good ones there. Fred Gregory's a good guy. We'll have to ask him about him being the pilot of that shuttle where one of the astronauts may have asked too many questions about the hatches and stuff like that. Supposedly anyway, we'll talk about that later with Fred Gregory. Tom Celentano says hi. He says his parents let him stay home from school to watch the Skylab launch. That's cool, parents there. And there is Elena. She's here right now. Thank you, Elena. And my daughter Jessie is in the backyard with two of my granddaughters. So thank you, Jessie and McKinley and Macy. Hope you're having a good time in the little pool out there. Like and subscribe and share is what my daughter Jessie says. She's up in Bristol, Tennessee, where I left my home up there 35 years to come here and help the American Space Museum. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, well, one of the great documentaries, and I didn't grab the book here, pretty much definitive documentary there, by Dwight Bonecki. Directed this and orchestrated this. His wife Alexandria, big behind this. Searching for Skylab. You can find it on the internet, can possibly download it, and also we sell copies of it here at the American Space Museum. It is really a good documentary about everything about Skylab. And we had Skylab astronauts, Jack Lausma, and the backup astronaut Rusty Schweikert in here a year ago in November for a fun book signing with Dwight and his wife Alexandria orchestrating that. So, thank you, Marty. You know I got vertigo. You don't want to put me in a spin there, but anyway, I don't know if you've watched this or not, Marty, but I have several times. And you got Bruce McCandless in there. All the Skylab astronauts are on it. Conrad's in there. Alan Bean does a great segment in there. And I think our friend Emily Carney, Space Hipster #1, is featured on this also. So you want to check that out. There's my autographed version of Jack Lausman and Rusty Schweikert there. That was an epic day, Marty, wasn't it? We had a lot of fun. Schweikert really surprised me of how affable he was and friendly. So you guys want to be checking that out. So, and there's hello to Mr. Chris Calley there. All right, hope and this is just not everybody watching there. Probably Connie McDaniel's watching. Thank you for all you do for the museum, Connie. And we've got maybe Hazel Banks is watching. She doesn't often chime in. Go ahead, Marty. You got a comment or question?
We got a comment from Tom Usiak. He says, FYI, today is the 4th anniversary of our first appearance on Stay Curious. Just to show how far Curious has come, we held up our photos to Marty's camera to discuss them, just like you were doing a few minutes ago.
That's right. We reprised that a little bit, Tom. 4 years ago, I do remember them being in here. And bonding our friendship then. Wow, it's been a fun ride, and all of you watching today have been part of it, and we're just so grateful because we feel like this is content today that might be a little blurb on your Facebook feed from one of your favorite space Facebook places like like ours, where we've got over 12,000 people there. But we just feel like we personalized a lot of this. Last year, Gary Allgaier, Marty, did a talk on Skylab, all right, and talked about the structural damage and how heated it was. You can go back and look up that. Gary's going to do a program tomorrow on Stay Curious. He's a structural engineer for NASA, retired. He's going to do a payload special program that will you'll be surprised about what he has to talk about. A very near miss catastrophe happened in the payload bay when some pyrotechnics were fired, and they things luckily didn't work. We were blessed that things didn't happen bad on that, but not going to give too much of it away. Stay curious and watch it tomorrow. So Skylab being a very big part of our museum, we have almost a whole case of memorabilia dedicated to Skylab, and we love talking about it. So let's keep talking about it, Mark. There's the beautiful logo of Skylab. Where's my book? There it is. Let's see what the emblem really meant in 1973, or more likely 72, when it was crafted. Uh, Let me get my spectacles on here. Skylab 1 launched unmanned, of course. The emblem shows the United States Skylab space station cluster in Earth orbit with the sun in the background. The artwork features the Skylab laboratory complex composed of the command service module, the leftover, of course, from the Apollo program, the orbital workshop. OWS was the technical nomenclature in NASA speak for it. The Apollo telescope mount, that's the fins, that's the solar panels. That powered this wonderful telescope that was specifically to harvest photographs that they had to do an EVA to go out and get, a spacewalk. It was all on film, but just so much data done on the sun during the 3 Skylab missions that for decades they're still probably catching up 50 years later of all the data. The multiple docking adapter and the airlock module are all shown here, okay? So the multiple docking adapter right there in front of the command module, and then above it was the egress for it. So, of course, launched May 14th, 1973 at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what goes up must come down, and it came down 6 years later on July 11th, 1979. We couldn't boost it up with anything because there wasn't a vehicle available to do that, and there was no space shuttle to do that. They were hoping to get the shuttle up in a way to do that, but it didn't. So now you know, Gary Gerald, the art behind all that. United States of America on the bottom. That was rarely put on a patch, and love to see it there. This is the look of the orbital workshop. The skin peeled off of it here. Love these type of photos, not technically engineering, but more for the common person to look. Voluminous, very big volume inside. So much so that they tested a rocket jetpack on several of the missions flying around in there with compressed air, is what Jack Lausma told me. And I like the Usiaks. Mark Usiak and Tom are very good friends with the Lausma family. And I, too, have been around Jack Lausma, not just at our museum, but at a couple dinners and up at the Space Bar when he was staying here and doing his talk for the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. And we are trying to effort Jack Lausma here for Shuttle Fest 5. What a coup that would be. He will be 80. He'll be 90 years old then, and but he's in good sound mind, and we're efforting that. So hope to bring that to you. Hot spring day. The Skylab, when it was launched, the Skylab program goals were 1, study the human body, 2, study the sun, and 3, study the earth. Okay, pretty much unknowns in all those areas that we didn't understand, even though We'd been to the moon and back 6 times, landed in 3 other missions. It was still, those missions weren't dedicated to the science of the body nor nothing of the sun, and the type of geographical surveys of the Earth were in its infancy. So Skylab provided a great outpost for that. And the beginning of Skylab, it launched in 1973. Here's a sketch in 1966 by Bob Miller, who became an architect of the NASA Apollo program, in a bureaucratic person, spelled Mueller, but pronounced Miller. This was his concept of a Skylab, to use up the leftover command modules on the left. So very crude paper napkin type idea of what they would do. And this down here at the bottom is the EVA of an astronaut, showing the air lines, the fluid lines to cool them, and the communication lines out there. What a sight this must have been in an airplane or helicopter to see the rollout of this Saturn V rocket. This would be the last launch of a Saturn V rocket, with the 3rd stage being the workshop. So bittersweet for a lot of people that worked on this behemoth of a rocket there. And here is the launch. Tom, your picture's there from the press site, 3.5 miles away. It was a hot afternoon on a Monday. No doubt many on the Florida Space Coast walked outside on that hot spring day, May 14th, to see the last Saturn V rocket rattle the windows of the Florida Space Coast. As the Saturn V reached a cloud deck, a tension strap on the meteoroid shield broke, ripping off the shield and a solar panel just 1 minute into launch. And this beautiful shot is deceiving. It wasn't sky blue, it was gray. And Tom has been on the show and talked about it several times, Tom Usiak, that the went into the clouds. They were kind of, wondering why did they not wait for better weather. And it wasn't raining, but the clouds did obscure the view, much like Apollo 14, but they did launch Apollo 14 in a rain. But this was not seen until it got to orbit. They didn't know that anything was wrong, because the panel fell in the ocean, and there weren't any ships at sea, of course, out there to clear the lanes to see it come down, and they didn't have that many cameras probably on it. But the launch of the last Saturn V rocket of Earth orbiting payload, improvised out of a Saturn 3rd stage rocket, was the Orbital Work Shop. This began a confusing numbering system that, if you talk about Skylab 3, really, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the last crewed mission, says the PR people, or are you talking about the next to the last crewed mission, according to the engineers? And we'll hit that here at the end here. Well, the panel being ripped off, and so dramatically seen here, the first time the astronauts went up to it. 11 days later, the astronauts were launched up there. Pete Conrad, Joe Kerwin, and Marty, help me real quick.
Alan Bean?
Alan
Bean?
No, Bean was commander of Skylab, the 2nd crewed Skylab there. Steve Jochums is going to tell me there. Yeah, Dr. George Mueller. I said Bob Mueller. Thank you for correcting me, Steve. Who are the 3 astronauts? Who am I leaving out? Kerwin. Of course, Conrad was the commander. Jack Lousma. Yeah, Lousma, of course. Yeah, on there. Senior moments here are allowed. So, Paul Weitz. Yeah, Paul Weitz. Lousma was Skylab 2. The 2nd crewed one there. Thank you, guys. Mitch and Steve in there tied for correcting me there. Don't minimum notes on this program here. As I get older, I'm probably going to need more notes. But imagine seeing, huh?
And I have no notes.
Yeah, I have no notes, minimum notes. But boy, to see that the solar panels gone, the protective heat shield, and it was over 100 degrees inside when they got up there 12 days later. There again's another perspective of it with the orbital workshop and everything deployed out of there like it was supposed to, which is it was all kind of uh, on hinges and stuff at the end there. So that did all work. So there was some optimism that this would be a successful lab. Um, Let me see here. So the fix was quickly done on the ground. Well, how are we going to do this? We got to lower the temperature, or the food's going to get spoiled. The film for the solar telescope is sensitive to heat. All kinds of things were going wrong inside there. You see the little wires off of the solar panel up there, sticking up there in the upper left-hand corner there. So they fashioned a paracel that could go through a part of Skylab that was intended to be a airlock, and this is what the seamstresses working on it. I've talked to some people involved with this. Somebody's told me that was their mother that did that, and so the there's the whole thing unfurled in there before they then folded it up. And I meant to pull out of our case. This is a very interesting artifact to have, a little credit card size piece of that has a little square of this orange on there. Very standard collectible that people try to get in their collection. And there it is. Actually, I think that's the last. The one of the other crews took up a better, Skylab 2 took up a better cover for it and put this over the other cover. I get confused about that, but I think this is the way it looked for 3 years. And thank you, Steve Jokums. He is our Lake County spaceport. To the stars through modeling is what his motto is, and he's got a model shop. Not a model shop, he does have a model shop in his home, but he sells different decals and so forth for models. This is a sample of his work. And thank you, Steve, for sharing a while back your model of the Skylab there. Look how cool that looks, accurate. And what Steve's Lake County Spaceport sells you is the solar panels decals to make that look accurate. You can't paint that and make it look like that. So that's the type of products he has. And happy to share that for a great supporter of our museum and stay curious for years. Steve Jokums up there in the shores of Lake Michigan. He is northwest of Chicago area up there. A couple nice close-up pictures. There's Mobile Launch Platform 2 that we featured on our Shuttle Fest 2. Tom Usiak, you may have provided this photo, the 2 on the side there. This was dismantled, and then there's some pieces of it out there for sale. A comparison, of course it's photoshopped, of a Saturn V, and then they put the a Saturn 1B on a milk stool, they called it, to reach all the launch umbilical tower connections, the LUT, something I did not know what the LUT was until Marty educated me. But you didn't want to change all the configuration of these gantries going across to certain detailed areas, including the launch platform, the walkout to put the astronauts in the command module at the top there. So I always find this an interesting engineering problem, Marty. All that weight on that little tower there, the milk stool tower. And engineering is really interesting of how they build things to hold a lot of weight. And but what a sight to see. And Tom Usiak, you were there for that launch too. There was always a configuration to bring astronauts back if there was a problem with the Skylab. They figured they could get a 2-man crew up there and bring back 5 people in this manner here. So, of course, 2 would go up, the commander on the left, pilot probably in the center seat, and then the third crew member of whatever Skylab mission would be up there. And training for that mission was Vance Brand there, and Lind. I forget Lynn's first name there. Someone will jump on that real quick. Maybe Cliff Watson's waking up there with his brekkie in Australia. Lind, what was Lynn's first name? Escapes me, but he waited 19 years to fly, and that was on the one Skylab mission. Vance Brand is 94 years old. All right. And had there been a Skylab fourth crew, they would have been it. I think it's Don Lind. Thank you very much, everybody. It came to my brain there. Not sure which orbital configure this is or where it's at. My notes escaped me on that today. That is CSM 119. Okay. So that shows you the great configuration. There are the crews that stayed up there. The first crew, there's Paul Weitz on the end. He's passed away. Only Joe Kerwin is alive. And of course, Pete Conrad died way too young in 1999 at age 69 in as a result of a motorcycle accident. Then they stretched it to 58 days. It says 60 days there, but that was Alan Bean, Owen Garriott, and Jack Lausma. And then 84 days was Bill Pogue, Jerry Carr, and Ed Gibson is still alive out of there. One crew member from each, Ed Gibson, Jack Lausma, and Joe Kerwin. And Kerwin's in his 90s. He was at the Astronaut Hall of Fame last year and was looking good. And I think he gave a talk, Marty, on a panel discussion on there. So these are American heroes exploring Earth's atmosphere, the sun, Earth's environment. Some of the photographs that they made in 1973 became the data. 73 and 74 became the data for today's Earth resources that we're discovering about the climate change. Yes, Marty.
Yeah, Tom Usiak said this would have been the Skylab Rescue CSM.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is why we love our audience out there, the smartest people out there. That would have been the rescue command module that they were going to use. And then the last command module was used for Apollo-Soyuz test project on there. So, yeah, beautiful, isn't it? What a sight to see in space up there. A panorama that I put together for Jay Honeycutt on a little project we did there. This shows you the sun, a great shot. And Jack Lausma told me he took this picture, Marty, of the Florida coast there with all the launch pads there. He said it was a gorgeous, beautiful, puffy clouds day you see there over it when we went directly overhead. And he was there to take the picture. I think in the upper left hand, that would be Ed Gibson on the final EVA. That could be somebody else. I'll be corrected on that. But interestingly enough, instead of a backpack for air supply or emergency air supply, because they had a hose, they had it strapped on their leg there. If that hose didn't work, they could get some air supply off of that. It's not a tool belt. There is Owen Garriott in a machine that was quite important to Skylab. They could blow this bag around your body and do all kinds of sensors and so forth on it. I forget the exact name of it. And there is, it looks like, is that Baker? Is that Ed? Yeah, that's Ed Gibson at the controls of the Skylab solar telescope. That's where they would control things at it, taking photographs. Of course, they're not looking directly at the sun, but one of the most amazing solar flares in the upper left-hand corner of the sun was thrown off the sun. Those are called coronal mass ejections. That happened during Skylab, and it has never happened that big since. that we've talked a lot about the sun. It's at its peak right now of solar activity, meaning a lot of sunspots, as it was in 74 and 75. That's one of the reasons why Skylab came down in just 6 years. They thought it would easily stay up for 10 without much of a boost, but the heat from the sun increased the atmosphere of the Earth to swell, and as it swelled, the atmospheric interference with even molecules at a time affected Skylab and brought it down early. Let's see here. I love this example of food in space, because when you saw this on Skylab, you thought, oh, wow, this is going to be the template for the space shuttle. And no, it didn't turn out that way. This is a heating element here. They could heat food up in there in these little containers. There might have been a little chill area on there, but they had regular utensils, fork, spoon, knife. And today, a lot of stuff is still bagged. They use hot and cold water to bring things to the right temperature to eat. There's no microwave on the International Space Station. Too much energy that takes. So, though this was very practical in Skylab, it would never really transition this TV tray looking thing to the space shuttle. And another thing that didn't transition in space very well, and it makes you wonder, Marty, is a shower. All right, and here's Jack Lausema trying a shower out on Skylab 2. He had a couple interesting comments. One was, I never saw my commander, Al Bean, take a shower. He never used it. All right, neither did the other astronaut with him. They towel dried themselves, moisture towelettes and stuff like that to stay clean. But Jack tried it. It was awful cold, he said. But this was a bag that would contain the water. Of course, water in space acts very weird. It's like globules, so it spit out, and here he is toweling himself down. You see the tabs at the top that you could attach this to contain all the water. He said it wasn't very practical, and they just never, Marty, explored this any further. You would think there would be on the space station some type of better, efficient way to clean the human body of all of our dirtiness. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jubilee is asking, is that tag I see? I'm not sure what she's actually asking. Maybe you understand it.
Don't know what Jubilee's asking there. And yeah, I was right when Tom Musiak says the photo of Skylab I showed in orbit was taken by the final crew because it's got a better parasol over there to keep it cooler on there. And thank you for my daughter hawking our show there. Like she says, if you're new, like, share, put a heart there. It means a lot to the algorithms of the program here. Well, Jack Lausemo is just a terrific guy. He's been in our museum several times. Here he is with our godfather, Charlie Mars. Charlie's 89 years old, the same age as Jack is now. Jack is a leap year baby, born on leap day. And he just turned 89 years old, and he was such a joy to talk to. And there Marty is pointing out the window frame of the space shuttle. And you know what his comment was about that window frame? We have an actual window frame. He said,
I didn't think the window was that big.
He said, yeah, exactly. He says, I didn't seem to me to be that big, when I was looking out at the space shuttle there. And of course, he was commander of STS-3, the one that landed out at White Sands out there. And, you've come home to roost when Jack Lausema is roosting in your chair there at my desk here on his visit here. And we pulled him in for a quick Stay Curious interview and had a nice talk with him. That's one we should reprise one day, Marty. on there. I don't remember that. Did we ever air that?
I would think
I'm
so.
sure we did, but had a great time with him, and there he is sitting in my office chair there. So, uh, good
Jubilee,
health to you there, Jack Lausma, and hope that you continue to share.
Jubilee was asking, is that tank she saw?
Okay.
You have to go back a few slides.
Oh, he was looking at the tag on the food, I guess, is what we were looking at. There you go. Yes, the food on the, yeah, good eye there, RG, Jubilee. Seeing that is definitely probably Tang that they're drinking there. In that collapsible type of drink thing. You don't see many of those anymore, but those are pretty efficient. Of course, once you squeezed it all went to the bottom again. You had to squirt it back up your nose and everything probably. But thank you for pointing that out there. And hello to Doug Forrest there. Glad that you're joining us from Los Angeles there. So we end the program with the, not controversy, but a little bit of confusion in that the Skylab's first crew is really Skylab 2. And Skylab 1 is the space station. Are you confused? Well, the crewed Skylab missions were officially designated Skylab 2, 3, and 4. And the launch of America's space station itself was called Skylab 1. By who? You're all asking out there. What? Well, the miscommunication between contractors in engineering and NASA management public relations concerning the numbering sequences resulted in mission logos in the Joe and Jane America world of the public of reading Skylab 1, 2 with Roman numerals and Skylab 3, respectively. But in the launch control firing room and VIP areas, the access credentials read with Arabic numbers. Skylab 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. You're not getting into the Skylab uh, uh, 4, or the last Skylab launch of the crew with a Skylab 3 firing room pass, Marty, right? You need the Skylab 4 firing room pass to get in there. There go. That's the last mission's patch there. And there's the patches that were disseminated to the public, which we've got the Skylab, beautiful Skylab there. Mission patch. We got Skylab Roman numeral 1, Skylab Roman numeral 2 with Leonardo's famous sketch there of what is it, the Victorian man. And then Skylab 3 is a big 3 there, and the rainbow symbolizing the science being done there, connecting the 3 there. So very, very interesting. Okay. So the numbers are 1 through 4 for engineers, with 1 being the orbital workshop itself, and 1, 2, and 3 for the media. And now you know how to stay confused. And Robert Law said he forgot to drink some Tang while he was here. And so anyway, Robert Law's met Jack Lausma, and so we have got the legacy of Skylab. Everybody wants to know about Skylab, and the biggest thing they want to know about is when it came back to Earth in 1979. Increased solar activity, like I said, caused the orbit to degrade faster because of the atmospheric drag. And July 11th, 1979, Skylab entered the atmosphere, broke up, and scattered debris over southeastern Indian Ocean and Western Australia. And there's a big piece of it there. There's when it came down, a photograph on there. And people are still finding pieces and parts of that in the Australian outback. And our good buddy Cliff Watson, who's on the east side of Australia, there in Pomona area, can attest to that. Don't know if you said you got anything of that, but there, Cliff, but you might have some of that for it. So, Skylab lessons learned. Humans can live and work in space for 84 days or longer. That was at 1974. That was the push the envelope for quite a few years. I think for about 3 or 4 years until the Salyut Russian space stations had a crew stay up there longer. Skylab demonstrated success with large multi-organizational ground operations. Okay. In other words, a lot of companies were involved in this. It reduced concerns of radiation exposure to crews. Okay. It was insulated properly in certain areas, and they thought radiation exposure, maybe after a month, would cause things to happen. And and of course, these astronauts have been studied, all 9 of them, for skin cancer and things like that for radiation. And it set the standard for future ground operations to orbiting space stations. Okay. It established the network, which of course has increased in the 21st century. But in 1974 and 73, there was not this global infrastructure of satellite dishes and other type of receiving stations. Some of them were actually at sea. Okay. And So let's end our Skylab program here. Looking at a couple other comments there. Slothman has joined us there. And another shot by Tom Usiak. I think that's sunrise, Tommy, of the orbital workshop on the pad up there, getting ready to launch. So, Marty, would that be sunrise?
Yeah.
Okay, that's sunrise there. So, thank you all for letting us go down memory lane of Skylab and all the subsequent missions up there. We forget that America. Really, this was the first permanent station in space. Russia had launched Salyut 1, I think, a half a year before this. So they had the first space station, but the inhabitants of it stayed up there 21 days, and they came back and they died during a reentry failure of the Soyuz spacecraft on there. So truly the first reusable spaceship, first reusable space station, and it really overcome an amazing problem. To get that hot inside and then everything still worked fine was a tribute to NASA and so forth on there. So thank you, Tom Usiak, for sharing your images, including this beautiful sunrise the morning of the launch, I assume, while you were there. So tomorrow we're going to have a good program with Gary Allgaier talking about something that happened during a mission in the shuttle payload bay that could have easily ended in disaster, but through a stroke of luck did not. So stay curious about that. Marty, anything else we got to button up over there?
No, looks like we're all buttoned.
Very good. Well, we appreciate everybody watching today. No more so than my daughter and my granddaughters watching today. So hello to all you out there, nameless out there, that are making our show popular. We need the interest in this to increase our little check that we get from YouTube, but also to expand what we do here at the American Space Museum. So thank you all for your participation and support. So until tomorrow with Gary Allgaier, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.